I'll entertain.
Okay. Well, we will leave that there. So I'll jump into some reactions from the city council meeting. It was a very interesting meeting. You know, obviously a lot of people at the very end had things to say, but I think overall the tone of the meeting, first of all, it was quick, and they ran through a lot of the items. I guess were actually addressed in the committee meetings. And so when it finally dropped to the floor, the council meeting floor, all the details had been explained, um, uh, researched, and whatever negotiation or Q&A that took place had already happened. So by the time it reaches the council meeting floor, then all they're doing is voting on that particular thing. So let me jump into. Let's just take a look at a few things, and this is just off the cuff, looking at the agenda for what it was, and kind of chopping down the biggest points that I view um, as important from this particular meeting, which again was a shorter meeting. A lot of items breezed through, little explanation in the city council meeting forum. And there was a couple of council members that were not present also. So I'll have a couple of questions. But the biggest thing we saw previously, the zoning ordinance request to change from whatever the current one is to residential out in the Cordova area. So this was I guess, a plot of land that exists. This is a plot of land that is Dexter and Cordova Lane. All right. And if I'm thinking about it right, I believe that's over there by the Briarcrest. I think there's a Briarcrest school or something to that effect out that way. Hold on one second. Let's take a look to see exactly where this is. So, gotta come on up to get to Cordova. All right. So obviously here's Witten Road, Appling Road, and Germantown. Um, so Dexter is here. And if you drop down, let's see, where are we at? Dexter and Cordova, right there. So oh, okay. So maybe it's somewhere else because it said Cordova Lane and Dexter Lane. Cordova Road, obviously you can get from Appling, then Cordova Road will run all the way up. And so I was thinking it was over here by this Memphis School of Excellence location. But if you're talking about Dexter Lane and Cordova Lane, Dexter Lane runs into Dexter Road. Let's see if we can do it here. Dexter Road. Let me see if I can figure this out. Hold one moment. Hold one moment. There we go. I'm not seeing my little pin mark right here. Talk to me, man. Oh, okay. So Cordova Road actually goes into a subdivision. And I'm guessing that they're talking about right here. It would be across from the subdivision that's already existing. And that's why the lady that's from the Cordova area was talking about old Cordova. Um, I'm guessing this wooded area here is where we're is where we're looking. Yeah, right across from what's that? Woodland Green Cove, and so the woodlands of Cordova. Yeah, I mean, Lord, I'm not even going to worry about it. So we just saw, so that wooded area right there, literally is most likely the area that they're looking to have uh, changed for the zoning, and they're attempting to make it into a residential area. I'm not sure what the fight is concerning drainage. I can definitely see the issue when it comes to traffic, because obviously if you're in, okay, all right, boom. So this is exactly where it is here. And I can see why, traffic wise, if you have a subdivision here and right here rather, you have all this wooded area. There's a house over here by itself, drainage run off there. Obviously you have whatever drainage here. I'm not sure how that would affect everybody else in that area. I mean, if it's a plot of land that obviously, so I would think it's either here, but you have a school that's there also, or the sign for the school at least. So if you turn around, maybe it's this area here. Nobody likes construction in their neighborhood if they can help it. And then obviously the traffic would be an issue because now you're adding 12 to 15 more houses in an area that's already packed in with a lot of neighborhoods. And it makes it more difficult to get in and out and, so on and so forth. So you have to think ahead because this project goes through very easily and obviously they'll continue forward with their plans. But what about the next one? And so it's good that you have people that are in the Cordova area that are vigilant and paying attention to what's going on around them. Not necessarily trying to make it hard for growth and so on and so forth, but they care about the details. The first lady that spoke in this in the meeting before the lady that was from Old Cordova, she actually works for the office that completes the paperwork or manages the paperwork that's submitted for these types of things, rezoning. And she said that there was a lot of things in the paperwork that were incorrect, but it kept getting passed through all the way up to the voting stage. And she felt uncomfortable with that. So she felt like she needed to come to the forefront. She spoke at the last city council meeting also. I'm glad that these people are involved and they care about what's going on in their community. And this one obviously will go through. And she said the lady that was from Cordova said that she would be paying attention and seeing whether or not they actually, if the construction company, the people that are involved with the project actually do what they promised they would do, even though they didn't get anything concrete saying this will happen. And if it doesn't happen, then we're in violation of something. So we'll continue to watch this project. I probably won't follow up to see what happened with it necessarily, but we'll see down the line whether or not there's other things that pop up that are of concern in this area or in other areas. But anyways, it's just good. And the whole reason that I'm talking about this specifically is because, you have, if you don't have an idea of what's going on in your neighborhood, you should. Whether you already have a developed neighborhood or if you are, even if you have a developed neighborhood or if there needs to be renovations to your neighborhood, beautification needs to be done to your community. You need to pay attention to who is coming in, investing the money, what their intentions are, and what they want to do moving forward. So good on those people for doing exactly what they needed to do for their community and the people that are around them. At least for face value, it looks like they're involved. All right, the next major thing that I was looking at. And so we have the change of requirements in Memphis City Council and for the mayor's office. Memphis City mayor requirements change. Ah, okay. Well, this is last year. So it looks like they said, okay, so Memphis has no 5-year residency requirement in mayor residency lawsuit. So a 5-year residency requirement for Memphis mayoral candidates was eliminated by a 1996 ballot referendum. Chancellor Joe Day Jenkins ruled Thursday that after hearing arguments in the lawsuit, that allows the path forward for 2 mayoral candidates, Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner and Memphis NAACP President Van Turner, to continue their campaigns. Court finds and concludes it does not find any ambiguity. Dyslexic. I'm dyslexic, man. Rather, the reading is quite simple on its face, particularly when read in its proper context, which retains the integrity of the ordinance without adding or taking away from it, Jenkins said. That is to say, the mayoral qualification clause is dependent on the qualifications of the city council members. All right. Attorneys for 2 mayoral candidates and Memphis City Council faced an attorney for the city of Memphis in court Thursday, arguing whether the city has a 5-year residency requirement for mayor. Central to the question posed Thursday is whether a 1996 ballot referendum redistricting the city council also ended the 5-year residency requirement for mayor. The trial comes after weeks of twists and turns in the lawsuit with varying arguments, new parties both entering and dismissed from the case. It's all also pit the legislative branch of the city of Memphis against the administrative, with attorneys for Memphis City Council arguing that there is no 5-year residency requirement, and attorneys for the city administration arguing that the requirement stands. All right. Attorneys for Bonner, Turner, and the city council described a seeming conspiracy leading to the enforcement of a 5-year residency requirement. When the requirement for city council changed in 96, they also changed the mayor due to a same as clause. Jenkins said that when the voters ended the 5-year residency requirement for council members, it left no 5-year requirement in the charter that could be applied to mayor. It's only through forced, contorted interpretation read out of context that we can reach the version contemplated by the city. Okay. I'm not going to go through that entire article. I think that if this is what they're talking about, okay, so interrupted again, but we won't let that hold us back. So it looks like that there's I guess previous to 1996, there was some type of 5-year residency requirement to be a mayor of Memphis or on the Memphis City Council. And from the looks of it, there was some type of let's see what it says. In 1996, that requirement changed. A ballot referendum that redistricting the city council also ended a 5-year residency requirement for mayor. And for whatever reason, in this, in the article that's explained here in Commercial Appeal, they say, there were the NAACP President Van Turner and our current Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner were in opposition of, I guess, this requirement. Maybe they don't live in the city limits and live in the county rather. But either way, this is what the city council changed. The item that was in the city council agenda today change was for. So we'll just have to dig in that a little bit deeper and find out what that actually entailed, what change was made to those requirements, why they were made. because I don't see anything that's more recent than May of. So it was a year ago, really, a little bit over a year ago. Um, let me see if there's anything that's more recent, but it doesn't look like it. We'll dig into this other places and see whether or not we can get some good answers. Because I'd like to know what they made, the changes that were made as far as the for the to be requirements for mayor and to be a city council member. Okay, so the next thing that I found to be interesting, obviously, was the MLG and W Board of Commissioners board expansion request, which is basically allowing people from the county, and it was specifically said inside this meeting that surrounding cities, Germantown, Bartlett, Collierville, what have you, would like to have a seat and a voice on the MLG and W board. And it faced heavy opposition. And they also said in to move forward with something like that, that there needed to be some type of concessions made in other areas. And you know, they outlined a few details that seemed to be of interest to one of the commenters that came up, and then also to the board members who ultimately ended up withdrawing. I believe Councilman Warren ended up withdrawing that item so that so so that it could be looked at more thoroughly. What's funny is, okay, so they have a section. They have a section um, in the Memphis City Council of consent agendas, where a bunch of things are ran off, and named, and they vote on that stack of things because it's already been previously discussed. Everybody has everybody generally has the same position on that, so they're gonna vote one way or the other to that entire stack. They try to slide that into the consent agenda, to the stack of items that would be, blindly voted one way or the other. And so I think that the thought process behind that was, well, this item that is actually being voted on won't allow it to move forward. What it's doing is it's putting it on the election ballot for August. So when we go to the election, or we go to the ballot box and vote, there are questions on specific items as well as the candidates that are running for office in that election. And one of the questions that would be asked is, yay or nay, are you for or are you against the expansion of the MLG and W Board of Commissioners? And so I see how they attempted to slide that through, but obviously it was caught. They removed it from the consent agenda and made it its own line item, so that it had to be discussed specifically. They voted on the rest of the consent agenda, and then they had to talk about that one thing. And ultimately it was withdrawn because if they would have voted on it, today, or if they would have voted on it during the meeting, then and it was not approved, it would have been dead, and they can't come back to the table with it. So ultimately they pulled it back and said, we won't vote on this today because we don't want it to die. And so, they'll relook at it in 6 weeks. That's how long Councilman Warren tabled it for. So we'll turn back around and we'll see what's going on with that here soon. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I don't know enough about the issue, but obviously it's a sticking point for a lot of the people that are on the council. There were people that were in the audience that were attending the city council meeting that had an opinion about that particular topic. So I mean, it's one of those things that okay, it starts to make me think that I need to focus in a little bit more and see exactly what's going on with that item. Why are they bringing those people in? They gave a line that it shows goodwill to the surrounding cities that were willing to work with them, so on and so forth, and that's great. But a lot of people are not. They don't want the board expanded. They don't want that voice on the board. So you have to dig a little bit more and find out what the actual issues are, and that might be something we pick up. Okay. And so the next item that stuck out to me quite a bit was this accepting of grant funds for MPD training 1,800 officers. That's great. They need the bodies. So they're training 1,800 officers, and I think the grant was around $1 million or something like that, or a little bit more. But the biggest question is, okay, are we training current officers, or are we train? I believe it's current officers that are already with the force and for training. I mean, it's a federal grant. It's something that had been applied for and approved, and so they just voted to accept that grant. Now, the biggest thing is we need all the training we can get. That's extra funds that have been allocated or received by MPD, and there's a lot of different things that need to happen. Obviously, that particular item is for training dollars, but I wonder how many things it can apply to. Maybe not equipment, maybe not more personnel necessarily, but I don't know whether or not being more well, not a presence in the community, but advertising more, doing certain things to attract more officers. So maybe not paid and so on and so forth, but the 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 department, or the part of the department that is active in soliciting younger Memphians to become a part of MPD, whether or not those dollars can be applied to that, then ultimately the recruitment or training during recruitment. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do and what ultimately blooms from this grant. In the grand scheme of things, a little bit over $1 million is only going to go so far. But it's good that they're actively doing something. I like to see a line item like this that's being discussed and voted on. That means that they're actively working. We know that from other stories that we've looked at. But you know what? That is good news for us. Anything coming in that wasn't any resource received that wasn't previously there, it's a bonus. And then the other little piece that I kind of walked away with, other than the comment cards at the very end, which were super interesting, but the other piece was the ordinance to amend the deadly weapon provisions. I'm wondering exactly what that is. And I'll look at this real quick. So Memphis deadly wep. I'm crazy. Weapon change. Ordinance change. Well, so in 2023, hold on one second. All right. Let's see what this has to say. So, Memphis City Council passes resolution opposing Tennessee bill, okay, to arm school teacher staff. This is back in April, though. Concealed carry on public school campuses is one step closer to becoming law in the volunteer state. Okay. It's on its way to the governor's desk. The bill does not require schools to notify parents when its school teacher or staff brings a gun to campus. House bill sponsor. Look, we just can't have that. I don't even want to. There's no reason to even look. If you want to go and read this, this is on Action News 5. And I'm not sure if this has to do specifically with that. Yeah. We don't need guns in our classrooms. If teachers look, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on um, wherever else, but a teacher in the classroom that's carrying a gun, it just doesn't make sense to me. Bring in more security guards if that's what you're gonna do. Somebody that can focus exactly on that and that gun. The teacher having to make a decision on whether or not to use a gun while at school is absolutely ridiculous to me. I can't even fathom having. Why I don't want them making those types of decisions. You don't even need to be in that mindset. The only thing you need to be worrying about is those kids. And if something goes down, we need to have the security guards or the police or whomever available and on premises, visible, so they can handle that type of thing because that's what they're there for. Why would you want a teacher holding that? I don't know if that's exactly what this is. We'll take a look at that ordinance change. I've written a few notes and make sure to circle back around and talk about it in detail. I just kind of wanted to touch on the things that I felt like were important inside the city council meeting and the things to ultimately end up looking at and seeing whether or not figuring out the details to them and how impactful they are to me and you. So I'm happy with what was going on inside the overall. I'm happy with the city council meeting this month. Both of them, as a matter of fact. I'm sure there'll be more to come. We'll start covering the committee meetings too, but just very, very lightly. I don't really want to get into deep details on a lot of different things because it may make things a little bit more convoluted, but at the same time, we have to know what we're talking about to make sure that we're, in tune with what's happening in the city. So look out for a few more videos, namely this ordinance change to deadly weapons, the MLG and W Board of Commissioners, and that, item that's up for, obviously it won't make the ballot in August now that it's been withdrawn. They'll have to start over from the beginning. So we won't hear about that for another month and a half, but we'll definitely find out more about that going forward if they're going to bring it back to the table. And I think it's those two things. And the change, the change in requirements for the Memphis City Council members and the mayor. So those three things we'll take a look at, dig into more. I have a list of other ones also that seem like they'll be good things to follow up and be aware of. And again, your comments are more than welcome. I want your comments on this channel in the comment box. There's also a Discord, but I'll release that to you as soon as we have participation on the actual channel itself. But if you're visiting and you're watching to this point, I thank you. I appreciate you. Hopefully we can learn together some of these details that need to be known because they affect us on an everyday basis. So thank you for joining me with this Memphis City Council meeting, and I look forward to the next time, which will have more news that we'll release, and then also we'll be going over organizations, nonprofits, and for-profit also, but organizations that are active in the community and doing things for our youth and in other different areas. So yeah, have a great one and be blessed.